There's something unsettling about old things, isn't there? Objects with a past, things that have lived through time, things that might remember. This story begins with an online auction. A man named Daniel, a collector of oddities, stumbled upon something strange. A small wooden box, listed simply as an antique heirloom. No history, no details, just a warning. Do not open. That of course only made it more tempting. When the package arrived, the air around it felt wrong. Not heavy, not cold, just off. Daniel dismissed it, of course. Superstition and nonsense, he told himself. But that night, as he sat at his desk, turning the box over in his hands, he noticed something odd. The wood wasn't smooth like it had seemed in the pictures. It had scratches, deep, jagged ones, as if someone had tried to claw their way in or out. Daniel ran his fingers over the carvings, feeling the splintered edges, and that's when he heard it. A whisper. Soft, faint, just beyond his ear, as if someone was standing behind him. He spun around. Nothing. His apartment was silent, empty, except for him and the box. He laughed it off, just his mind playing tricks. But when he turned back, the box was open. He was sure, absolutely sure, he hadn't undone the latch, but there it was. Its lid tilted slightly, revealing darkness inside. And then, the whispering returned. Clearer this time. A voice, breathy and desperate. "Let me out." Daniel shoved the lid shut. He told himself he was just imagining things. But that night, as he lay in bed, the whispering followed him. It slithered into his dreams, wrapping around his mind like cold fingers. The next morning, he woke up to something even worse. His hands, his nails were filthy, dirt caked beneath them. His sheets had deep scratches, like he'd clawed at them in his sleep. He told himself he must have had a bad dream. Sleepwalking maybe, but deep down he knew better. Still, he didn't get rid of the box. Not yet. Because the voice, it had changed. It wasn't desperate anymore. It was pleading, "Help me." And there was something about it, something almost human. That night, Daniel set up a camera. He needed to prove to himself that this was just his imagination. The logical part of his brain demanded an explanation. But at 3:12 a.m., his camera caught something he could never explain. The box moved, by itself. Just a little, just enough. And then, the whispering returned. But this time, it wasn't alone. The whispers were layered, overlapping, tangled voices pleading, crying, begging. Daniel grabbed the box and threw it across the room. It hit the wall, but the lid, oh the lid, flung open, and the air inside wasn't empty. It was thick, heavy, suffocating, like something unseen had just been released. That's when the shadows in the corners of his room started to stretch. And then, the whispers turned into laughter. Low, cold, not human. He ran. He didn't know where, he just knew he had to get out. But when he reached for his door, the handle wouldn't turn. His own apartment had locked him in. Then, the lights flickered. The room dimmed, and in the reflection of his TV screen, he saw it. Not a shadow. Not a trick of the light. A figure, thin, long, its fingers dragging along the wall, leaving dark streaks in their wake. And where its face should have been, there was nothing. Just empty space, a void. Daniel turned, but there was nothing there. Just silence. Just the open box sitting in the middle of his floor, waiting. He grabbed it, ran to the kitchen, and shoved it in the sink, turning the faucet on full blast. Water gushed over it, but the whispers only grew louder, warping, twisting, until they turned into something else. His own voice. I let it out. The words sent a chill through his bones. He hadn't said them, but the voice was his. And then, the faucet turned off. Not by his hand. Daniel left that apartment the next day, packed a bag, never looked back. But the box? He didn't take it with him. He left it there sitting in the sink, water dripping from its edges. He never found out what happened to it. He never wanted to. But sometimes, in the dead of night, when he's alone in a quiet room, he still hears it, a whisper, just behind his ear. Let me out. But now it's not just a whisper. Now there's breath on his skin. Now there's a shape in the corner of his vision, lurking just beyond the reach of the light. And now the door to his new apartment won't open, no matter how hard he pulls.